Today, I'll be installing a Southern style full-length roof rack on my 2020 4Runner. Now this is a TRD Pro, so it came with a TRD Pro roof rack. I've documented the process I went through to remove that in a previous video, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. So with that said, the truck is ready to go. Let's get the roof rack installed.
I've got the Southern style off-road rack unboxed and the components laid out. Here we've got the crossbars, the rails, the trim that goes under the fairing, and here is the fairing itself. Here are the brackets that connect the fairing to the side rails. Got the front feet and the other various hardware components. And then over here we have the brackets that mount to the rack to the roof. And then finally we have these composite blocks that actually go over the white tubes that stick up from the roof's stock mounting points. When it comes to mounting an aftermarket roof rack, keeping moisture from seeping into the truck through the mounting points is a major concern. Southern Style Off-Road recently updated the mounting points for the 4Runner. Previously, what was provided were aluminum spacers that would fit over the white tubes that stick up through the roof from the mounting points under the headliner. Installers had to use a healthy amount of silicone in an attempt to create a watertight seal. These composite blocks replaced the aluminum spacers, and according to Southern Style Off-Road, silicone is no longer required. They provide this butyl tape that sits between the roof of the 4Runner and these composite blocks that will create a watertight seal.
It's very important to make a watertight seal here. So I'm going to follow Southern Style Off-Road's recommendations to use this butyl tape and sandwich that between the roof and this composite block. But where I'm adding an additional layer of protection is I'm including these silicone washers or gaskets, and I'm sandwiching those between the composite block and these stainless steel washers. So my hope is that as I tighten this down and torque it to spec, that it will compress these washers, and these washers will provide a watertight seal.
Before I install the mounts, I'm taking some of the remaining butyl tape and I'm packing it around the plastic tubes that stick up through the roof. This will give me some additional peace of mind, knowing that I'm doing all I can to make this a watertight seal, without having to use sticky and messy silicone.
Okay, so I have my composite block here. I got the butyl tape already applied. I'm going to be taking my pencil so I can use that to guide my way into these white tubes. So I'm going to poke the pencil through this butyl and use it to guide me down around there. So okay. Okay, then I'm going to place these two silicone washers over the holes, and two stainless steel washers over those. Place the bracket in place, and then slide the bolts in over top and work them in inside those tubes. I'm just putting a couple threads on here, but this is going to remain loose until I can get the sides of the rack on.
Next, I need to prep the roof above the windshield for the paint protection film installation. The PPF will keep the paint from direct contact by the trim that will act as a gasket underneath the wing fairing. With the roof cleaned and out of the sun, I now need to lay down the PPF strip. I did some research and found that the easiest way to install PPF or any large stickers is to use some soapy water. This method keeps the surface slippery for a few minutes while you apply the vinyl and make some minor adjustments, and then work out the bubbles with a small squeegee. Next, I'll install the front feet onto the side rails of the rack. These feet act as tension points that sit on top of the trim in the rain channel in the roof and provide support for the front of the rack. These feet install on the inside of the rails and get attached with the supplied black Allen head bolts. Next, I'll get the rack rails attached to the mounting brackets on each side of the truck. Before I can install the fairing, I need to put the rubberized trim along the bottom. The purpose of the trim is to allow for the fairing to sit right up against the roof of the 4Runner, and that keeps the wind from traveling under it and making noise. Okay, the next step is to get these side brackets installed. The instructions say to install them on the fairing first, but install them loosely and then tighten them up. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now that the fairing is ready to go, it's time to get it on the roof and get it attached to the side rails. Next, we'll install the horizontal bars. I'm using a pool noodle and a towel to protect the roof while I do this job myself. If I had someone helping me, they would be able to hold one end, but since I was doing it myself, I had to improvise. I'm purposely not placing any of the horizontal bars above any of the mounting bolts that attach to the roof because I need to be able to get in there and tighten the bolts down once I get the majority of the bars installed and the roof rack is squarely sitting on the roof. With most of the horizontal bars installed and tightened down, I'm measuring the mounting bolts in relation to the brackets, and I'm comparing it to each side of the roof to ensure that the rack is sitting square. I then tighten down the brackets, and I'll torque them down to spec. The final step is to install all the remaining horizontal bars, and then double check every bolt to make sure they're tightened down and everything is secure. Here's a look at the mounting points now that everything is tightened up. As you can see, the butyl tape that sits between the composite block and the roof, that gets compressed when the mounting bolts are torqued down. Also, The silicone washers get compressed between the stainless steel washers and the top of the composite block. Also, the bolts themselves, they're covered in the butyl. If I were to take one of the bolts out, you'd see that butyl is all over that bolt. With these 3 layers of protection, I'm pretty confident that this configuration will provide a watertight seal. So here's the rack all mounted. Do a quick little pan so that you can see what it looks like on top of the 4Runner.
It's been about 3 weeks since I've installed the rack, and since then I've taken it through a car wash. I've had it sitting outside during some rainstorms, and I've really haven't seen any signs of any moisture coming in. But to be honest, the only way you can be 100% certain is to get under the headliner and take a look. Now, I do have an orthoscopic camera that I could maybe wedge up in there and take a look around, but I don't know that I'm going to do that anytime soon. Now, one way that you can have some sort of confidence that you're not leaking, at least on the front mounts, is to pull the seat belts out all the way and check for any moisture on the seat belt after a good rainstorm. I know it's not the best, but perhaps that's enough to give you some peace of mind. So that's it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or if you have a comment, leave it in the comments below. If you like what you see, you like these type of videos, give me a thumbs up. Better yet, subscribe to my channel, and that will incentivize me to create some more videos. So thanks for watching. See you next time.